much as I don't want to throw a third video on you on a Thursday, I got them piling up. Like, I want to, deleted a couple of them. We don't need to discuss that. I've, talked about that enough. I mean, man, I still got 4 to do. Really need to get these out. Well, I'll just do 1 extra today, okay? Why? Because this is such an interesting story. The elitists, some of them are getting pissed off at the sheeple. Foreignpolicy.com. Foreignpolicy.com. Interesting. Oh. Someone knocking at the door. Stand by. So this story, it's time for the elites to rise up against the ignorant masses by James Traub, who I believe is a CFR member, Council on Foreign Relations, I believe. So he writes this. It's time for the elites. He uses the word elites to rise up against the ignorant masses. The Brexit has laid bare the political schism of our time. It's not about the left versus the right. It's about the sane versus the mindlessly angry. So let me guess. The sane is the elite. The mindlessly angry are you and I, bozos. I was born in 1954, and until now, I would have said that the late 1960s was the greatest period of political convulsion I have lived through. Hang on 1 second. All right, so where was I? I was born in 1954, and until now, I would have said that the late 1960s was the greatest period of political convulsion I have lived through. Yet for all that, the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights struggle changed American culture and reshaped political parties. In retrospect, those wild storms look like the normal oscillations of a relatively stable political system. The present moment is different. Today's citizen revolt in the United States, Britain, and Europe may upend politics as nothing else has in my lifetime. In the late 1960s, elites were in disarray, as they are now. But back then, they were fleeing from kids rebelling against their parents' world. Now the elites are fleeing from parents. Extremism has gone mainstream. One of the most brazen features of the Brexit vote was the utter repudiation of the bankers and economists and Western heads of state who warned voters against the dangers of a split with the European Union. British Prime Minister David Cameron thought that voters would defer to the near universal opinion of experts that only showed how utterly he misjudged his own people. Both the Conservative and the Labour parties in Britain are now in crisis. The British have had their day of reckoning. The American one looms. If Donald Trump loses, and loses badly, forgive me for my reckless optimism, but I believe he will, the Republican Party may endure a historic split between its know-nothing base and its K Street/Chamber of Commerce leadership class. The socialist government of France may face a similar fiasco in national elections next spring. Polls indicate that President Francis Hollande would not even make it to the final round of voting. Right-wing parties all over Europe are clamoring for an exit vote of their own. Yes, it's possible that all the political pieces will fly up into the air and settle down more or less where they were before, but the Brexit vote shows that shocking change isn't very shocking anymore. Where then could those pieces end up? Europe is already pointing in one direction. In much of Europe, far-right nativist parties lead in the polls. So far, none has mustered a majority, though last month, Norbert Hofer, the leader of Austria's far-right Freedom Party, which traffics in Nazi symbolism, came within a hair of winning election as president. Mainstream parties of the left and right may increasingly combine forces to keep out the nationalists. This has already happened in Sweden, where a right-of-center party serves as the minority partner to the left-of-center government. If the socialists in France do in fact lose the first round, they will almost certainly support the conservative Republicans against the far-right National Front. It appears to me that this guy is not too happy with the way things are going right now. Perhaps these informal coalitions can survive until the fever breaks, but the imperative of cohabitation could also lead to genuine realignment. That is, chunks of parties from the left and right of center could break away to form a different kind of center, defending pragmatism, meliorism, technical knowledge, and effective governance against the ideological forces gathering on both sides. It's not hard to imagine the Republican Party in the United States, and perhaps the British Conservatives, should Brexit go terribly wrong, losing control of the angry nationalist rank and file and reconstituting themselves as the kind of Main Street, pro-business parties they were a generation ago, before their ideological zeal led them into a blind alley. That may be their only alternative to irrelevance. The issue at bottom is globalization. Brexit, Trump, the National Front, and so on show that political elites have misjudged the depth of the anger at global forces, and thus the demand that someone somehow restore the status quo ante. It may seem strange that the reaction has come today rather than immediately after the economic crisis of 2008, but the ebbing of the crisis has led to a new sense of stagnation, with prospects of flat growth in Europe and minimum income growth in the United States. Voters are rebelling against their dismal long-term prospects, and globalization means culture as well as economics. Older people whose familiar world is vanishing beneath a welter of foreign tongues and multicultural celebrations as are waving their fists at cosmopolitan elites. I was recently in Poland. Hi, I'm from Poland. Isn't that weird? Where a far-right party appealing to nationalism and tradition has gained power despite years of undeniable prosperity under a centrist regime. Supporters use the same words again and again to explain their vote. Values and tradition. They voted for Polishness against the modernity of Western Europe. Perhaps politics will realign itself around the axis of globalization, with the first shakers on one side and the pragmatists on the other. The nationalists would win the loyalty of working class and middle class whites who see themselves as the defenders of sovereignty. The reformed center would include the beneficiaries of globalization and the poor and non-white and marginal citizens who recognize that the celebration of national identity excludes them. Of course, mainstream parties of both the left and the right are trying to reach the angry nationalists. Sometimes this takes the form of gross truckling, as when Nicolas Sarkozy, who is seeking to regain France's presidency, denounces the tyranny of minorities and invokes the forever France of an all-white past. From the left, Hillary Clinton has jettisoned her free trade pass to appeal to union members and others who want to protect national borders against a global market. Hang on. Hold the phone. Whoa, pause. Time out. Hillary Clinton has jettisoned her free trade pass to appeal to union members and others who want to protect national borders against the global market. That sounds like Donald Trump, not Hillary Clinton. Who is this writing this moron? Some kind of CFR person? Oh, wait, it is a CFR person. But left and right disagree so deeply about how best to cushion the effects of globalization and how to deal with the vast influx of refugees and migrants that even the threat of extremism may not be enough to bring them to make common cause. The schism we see opening before us is not just about policies, but about reality. The Brexit forces won because cynical leaders were prepared to cater to voters' paranoia lying to them about the dangers of immigration and the costs of membership in the EU. Actually, no. It's extremely expensive for the nations to be in the EU, giving billions upon billions upon billions of dollars to this unelected group of people that provide nothing, really. And the dangers of immigration we've already seen and heard with the assaults on females, namely, happening left and right across the nations of the EU. Some of those leaders have already begun to admit that they were lying. Donald Trump has, of course, set a new standard for disingenuousness in catering to voters' fears, whether over immigration or foreign trade or anything else he can think of. The Republican Party, already rife with science deniers and economic reality deniers, has thrown itself into the embrace of a man who fabricates realities that ignorant people like to inhabit. So anybody who likes anything that Donald Trump says or believes in, you are an ignorant person because you inhabit it. Did I say ignorant? Yes, I did. It is necessary to say that people are deluded and that the task of leadership is to undelude them. Is that elitist? Maybe it is. Maybe we have become so inclined to celebrate the authenticity of all personal conviction that it is now elitist to believe in reason, expertise, and the lessons of history. Okay, you're not reasonable at all. You're certainly not an expert because everything you said was supposed to fix these problems has not worked. We've now become far more in debt. Bank bailouts are part 2.0 is coming up. And what's the other one? Lessons of history. You haven't learned anything from history because you, too, are repeating the same lessons of history. Central banks, fractional reserve lending, boom and bust cycle, stock market crashes, take away great laws that regulated these markets, replace them with nothing, markets get out of control, cry for regulation again, give the regulation again, special interests come, remove the regulation again, and rinse and repeat. So you guys are the smartest ones in the room. What the... And I just proved you wrong in the last 15 seconds. Elitist mindset? Yes. Check that one off. That's a Big 10-4. The other one, other three, complete garbage. So if so, the party of accepting reality must be prepared to take on the party of denying reality and its enablers among those who know better. If that is the coming realignment, we should embrace it, he says. So he's saying, if we can't have our way with these sheeple, they're not bending to our will. They're tired of what we're doing. They're tired of us bringing in a completely Middle Eastern culture, which is of third world status, and we're throwing them into the streets with these people. They can't even kind of communicate together. They can't get along together. Their thoughts, their religious beliefs are so radically different, you can't possibly intertwine these two, which is why there's fighting, raping, killing, assaults, setting places on fire, the whole 9 yards. So those people who are dealing with that, don't you dare say that that's the right thing to do, which you guys are doing, which is simply we want to get rid of these people, and embrace what this elitist has just said. Because he's the smartest guy in the room. He's the economist. He's the Princeton, Harvard, Yale graduate. So listen to him. But guys just like him have been in power this whole time and have absolutely destroyed the economy, have absolutely destroyed your retirement, and are about to do it all again. Except this time, it's going to be the finale. And as I said, they will blame it on the exiting of the UK from the Eurozone. That's why it happened. It started with the UK. Then this other country came in and they wanted to leave, so they left. Then we had a third one. It was all planned, all designed by plan the whole time. How do we know this? The weird, crazy speech Christine Lagarde gave a couple years ago about the number 7, the magic of 7 and 7 and 7. And as I said, I did the video the other day, 7 years, 7 months, 7 weeks, and 7 days is when they held this the Brexit vote. And the results came in that day, the next day, that very day, 7777, when it was supposed to take place in 2017, and the Prime Minister changed it to June 23rd, of all days in the whole year, 365 days to choose from, when in fact it should have been further past that because it's 2017 when it was originally supposed to happen. But if you had to pick one day, one single day in the year 2016, he chose to pick June 23rd. June 23rd, the next day, is 7 months, 7 years, 7 weeks, 7 days. It's all by design. Plain and simple. Take care.